Hey everybody, this is Kennedy Hawk. It is April 28th, 2021, and today's card of the day is Under Surveillance. So Under Surveillance is a 2-cost upgrade from the Justice aspect, so we're continuing Justice Week strong with this upgrade from the Thor Hero Pack. So it was one of those backup cards in the back of his pack. It has the condition trait and the text attached to the main scheme, max 1 per scheme. Increase the target threat value of attached scheme by 4. So there is only one scenario currently that has more than one main scheme in play at a time, and that is Kang. So you could technically move through time zones slowly, playing multiple under surveillances out, or if there are multiple Justice players, you could have them out, but you're probably not going to want to use this in Kang, and you'll find out why pretty shortly. So what it does is it increases the target threat value or the threat threshold. So this little rhino card down here, it's the circled number in the top corner. So in solo, that's 7 per player, so it's going to bump it up to 11. In multiplayer, that's 14, it's going to push it up to 18. In 4-player, that's 28, it's only going to push it to 32. So it's obviously more powerful in solo because it doesn't scale with the number of players, but it's still really strong in multiplayer and can counteract some of the strongest cards in the game. So let's look at 2 player cards that combo well with Under Surveillance and talk about the different villain cards that it's really good against. So the 2 player cards I'm thinking of immediately are Shuri and Jessica Drew's Apartment. I love running Shuri in Black Panther Justice because Justice has a lot of upgrades that you probably only want to run 1 to 2 of. But if you use Shuri, she can go fish Under Surveillance out. So even though you run 1 of it, it's still very consistent. At least more consistent than only having 1. Some people might run 3 of this to make it more consistent, but then you've got 2 dead cards in your deck, so there's this like counterbalancing position. So Shuri can sort of solve that problem for you. This can also be fished out from Jessica Drew's Apartment, so you search the top 5 cards of your deck for an aspect card and add it to your hand, shuffle your deck. So if you can get Jessica Drew's Apartment out there, you're then able to search out Under Surveillance a little bit faster and hopefully get it exactly when you need it. And the reason you want to do that is because when you need it is when things are tight. So a lot of people struggle with Rhino in solo, especially the first couple solo expert games against Rhino, and it's because it's very difficult to flip down to Ultra Ego against Rhino. But he kind of forces you to because he hits you really hard and you need to heal. But if you have 0 threat in Rhino's scheme, it's 7 per player, it goes up by 1. He schemes for 1 plus a boost card, so that boost card could be a 3, that pops up to 5. If you draw an advance, all he has to do is get a 1 boost and you've lost the game. But if you have an Under Surveillance, Rhino would have to flip down, he would get his 1 auto threat. He could scheme for 4 twice and only get to 9, and you could still have 2 threat threshold of wiggle room if you have Under Surveillance on the break-in. So really powerful there. I think this is really powerful in the first stage of Ultron, especially in solo, that Crimson Cowl where it's 3 threat per player. You really kind of want to stay there so you don't get to that one that forces you to put threat or a drone out every turn. So if you can slap Under Surveillance down on your first turn, even though it's not like a big flashy move, doubling that threat, target threat value is really, really, really good. Later in Ultron, when you finally get to Countdown to Oblivion, threat cannot be removed from this scheme, so the only thing you can do is prevent threat going on or increase that threat threshold. So playing Under Surveillance again, really powerful in the last stage of Ultron. Finally, anything that has small stages like Crossbones and some of the Galaxy's Most Wanted sets are going to have strong synergy with you running Under Surveillance in your deck. So I definitely recommend most Justice players probably want to run this, especially if they're doing solo or 2-player. If you're playing 4-player, maybe it's more of a like targeted card, like if you're playing Ultron or if you're playing Crossbones with that really low target threat. But still, it's a powerful card that can sort of counteract something like an advance or a surprise scheme from the villain. A lot of times we flip down saying, okay, well, the villain would have to scheme with a 3 boost and have something else bad happen for this to ruin my day. Well, Under Surveillance can prevent that other bad thing from happening. The thing that I don't have in here yet is Insight. Insight is another really good thing that, really bad thing, that Under Surveillance can sort of mitigate. A lot of times we're thinking, okay, well, I have the villain confused, so I'm okay to flip down. Boom, I flip a Treachery card that has Insight too. Now the main scheme has popped, I've gone to the next phase, all sorts of bad things have happened. There's a couple other ways you can use this card. I've found that this card is really good on characters that aren't very good at thwarting. So I'm thinking with Spider-Man Justice and with Hulk Justice, you get this card down, it gets you a couple more turns, and both those characters can sustain hero form for a long time. So you stay in hero form, you have less threat going out, you use Under Surveillance to give yourself even more time to defeat the villain, to draw your web kicks and your Hulk smashes and stuff like that. So, what are some rules goofs with under surveillance? There's not a ton of rules goofs, but I've seen a couple questions asked by a lot of people. So the first one is if the main scheme advances. Let's say you put this on, what was it, the Crimson Cowl, and Ultron somehow magically gets to 7 threat that turn. When you go to stage 2, this is going to get discarded. It's not going to stay on the villain like his attachments do. It is a player upgrade. When that main scheme leaves play and the new one comes out, under surveillance goes to your discard pile. So that's a real feel bad when that happens, but it's the way it works. It does say max 1 per scheme, and it also says attached to the main scheme. So this isn't 1 per main scheme per player. This is like 1 for the whole team. So if all 4 of you are running Justice in a world that hopefully no one exists in where you want to have 7-hour-long games, you would not be able to play under surveillance all 4 of you onto the main scheme. Only 1 of you could get it out. So there's no point in having 3 Justice players and everybody running under surveillance. It's not gonna buy you anything magical. So we will continue Justice Week tomorrow and Friday, and then we will kick it off to a new aspect next week. And the video format will be a little bit different because I'm going to be recording with like physical cards in front of me. So we'll get through that week, and then we'll be back to normalcy here on Card of the Day. Thanks for tuning in, and have a great day.